So can I please have a warm welcome for Finnian McManus.
Hi, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming. It's an honor to do some demos for you today and introduce you to this awesome software. I'm Finnian. Thank you for being here. Today I'm going to be showing you a lot about the process that I use for sketching. Now, sketching is one of the most important things I do in film and game. It's something that pretty much every director I work with wanted to see, and every art director would love to see that you can do it. So I'm going to show you guys the process I would use for sketching variations for a film project. Now, there's a lot of different ways I sketch. I sketch in VR, I sketch in 3D, I sketch in Photoshop, but Adobe Fresco is really, really fun to paint with for sketching. I'm going to be doing a little demo for you and showing you how I take a basic drawing, we'll say like a variation for some architecture, and then I'm going to be taking that into Photoshop and doing some photo matching, some painting over it, and hopefully by the end of this hour session, we'll have a full pre-production sketch done. Now, this is going to be a super casual session. This isn't like the other presentations you guys have seen here. So, if people have questions, during this process, raise your hand. I'm totally happy to answer anything. I can be blabbering on, that's what I do. But feel free to interrupt. Have a question, raise your hand. Have a problem with the program, raise your hand. And everybody will help you guys out in the system. So once again, thanks for being here. And I'm just going to start talking about the process. So what I'm planning for today is something based on my Blue Valley project. I've been developing for a while, personal work. But the way I designed for this project is very similar to the process I use for film. I focus heavily on architecture. I use very heavily referenced images. So this has a lot to do with organic and underwater creatures, underwater fishes and plant life. And one of the ways that I start sketching, I sketch in line, I sketch in paints, but one of the ways I like to do it is with a thumbnail. One of the ways you can always make your thumbnail more dramatic is to start with a horizon line that's either on the bottom third or the top third of the canvas. Now, what this does is it allows the viewer to be a little bit more immersed in the drawing. So combining that with a little bit of three-point perspective on the side, you start to get a real feel like you're in a space, like you're in an environment. So, normally what I do, I'd either start with a marker sketch or a pencil sketch, something very, very quick. And the first thing I like to do, just to make sure that we start our design off in the right way, is I want to fill in the initial sketch that I'm doing. So basically, decide what the silhouette is going to be, and then really start to find that silhouette, especially starting with the focal point. Because in the end, that's going to be really the main thing that the audience is going to see, and that's going to control the major beats of the painting. Now, one of the great things about Fresco that I've been experimenting with for a while now is how well it replicates traditional media and the amount of tools at your disposal. So you have a lot of paint tools, painting tools, lots of brushes that actually have been really well researched into the effects and the brush stroke. So this is one of the things I'm really excited with this program is that, a lot of people ask me, how do you get, painterly feelings in your drawings? Or how do you make 3D look painterly? A lot of the answers to that has to do with how you're actually painting the brushes you're painting with. And a simple way to put it is that if you switch brushes a lot, switching to different textures, that's something that can really give your illustration a painterly feeling. It doesn't always have to do with just using one brush repeatedly. I believe, at least in my experience, has to do more with switching between lots of different media to get that variation in texture when you're painting something. So right now, basically what I'm trying to do is establish like a hierarchy of shapes. I'm thinking of one main mass in the sense that you can see I've blocked out pretty steadily, and I'm trying to overlap a bunch of different lines on top of that to make sure that there's a little bit of depth in the silhouette. By sketching out these lines on top and overlapping them with the existing silhouette, that's going to give a little bit more of a reinforcement perspective to the shape, and it's also going to make it feel more solid. because if I were to just sketch the silhouette as a built-in silhouette, it will look okay, but it's not going to look, not going to have a lot of depth to it. And in the end, that's what you want. You want something that feels like it's very thought out, and sort of it's a real object, even if it's a little bit more toward the animation style. We want to be able to believe that this could exist somewhere. So I'm filling it with a lot of blues and a lot of purples, because that's mainly in the Blue Valley. Those are the things that kind of make up. And then I'm switching up kind of the style of rendering. So I'm using lines here and then paint there. There's going to be some, roots that spring out from the undergrowth here, and then traverse a little bit through the painting. And those are great little details you can use to drag the eye around, because you can have a basic silhouette, but if you don't have anything pointing to it or leading to it, then it can get a little bit complex. It can distract a little bit. So we're going to be utilizing, roots, vines, a lot of things on the ground plane to really reinforce the perspective and give a bit more of a dynamic feeling. What I like to do for ground planes is sketch some sort of dynamic lines. The way you can really do that is instead of drawing always with your hand, use your shoulder motion, and then kind of swing it back around. And that gives you a much more elegant stroke. That's almost like when you transform something in Photoshop. So I'm thinking, this foreground area, we're going to have that in shadows, so we use a dark purple for that next step. Just kind of fill it in. But I want to make sure to leave some of those directional lines that we have. And then I'm going to be switching around brushes a lot just to get that interesting, feel of texture combining together. And I have to say, I really love the live brushes as well, because they combine and mix. They basically are brushes that will keep transforming your painting after you paint with them. This one mimics watercolor, which is really nice for blending a lot of different colors together. Especially when you blend something that's very saturated and bright with a darker color, you can get some interesting washes to happen. Since this is an underwater scene, that's actually something that's going to be really beneficial for me. Now, again, if anybody has any questions for me while I'm doing this, there's going to be some times where I'm just like off my world painting this thing. So if you want to raise your hand too, I'm totally happy to help out. It could be things about process for film, it could be about sketching, really anything that you guys would like.
Yeah, any questions for Finnian, just raise your hand.
Yes, back there.
I'm going to come to you. Hang on just a second. Let me grab this.
I was just wondering, I have Photoshop and a Surface Pro, and I find that a bit frustrating. Do you have much experience of using Photoshop on a tablet, and how is it different?
So I have my tablet right here. Intuos Medium, I've never used anything else. I've tried to use Cintiqs. A lot of my friends use Cintiqs. I've never been able to get the hang of it. A lot of my friends say it'll be great to look at the screen rather than your lap. But I actually love painting without having my hand over my painting. I love sketching with the iPad. I do a lot of sketching with my iPad myself. But when it comes to really finishing an illustration, finishing a design, I do prefer to use a Intuos so that I can really picture it on the screen without any distractions. So what I'm doing with the background here is I'm deciding for the sky color. It's going to be a mix of blue and purple. And a lot of the lighting, I'm actually going to add in Photoshop. I'm not going to go too crazy with the lighting. I'm more setting up the tonality and palette, because one of the things I really like about this software particularly is the ability to mix colors. And the lighting is actually going to be faster than do with Photoshop after this. So I'm going to focus on getting like the right sort of palette that I want for this first. And then we're going to light it basically later. So this is similar. I don't know how many people went to or anyone to my talk today about lighting and composition for film. A lot of the times what I'll do is I will arrange the color palette in darks beforehand and then handle the lighting on a separate layer afterwards. And for me, that kind of makes it a little bit simpler to deal with. We break it down into steps. So it just makes it a little bit easier to manage it. So now we've got a beautiful washdown. We're going to start going back in here and detailing out some of the supporting elements on either side of our canvas. we have these bulbous forms on the side. And these are going to compositionally act as blockers. It's not literally a corrector, it's just what I call it. It's something that will frame your canvas. So oftentimes when you want someone to look at a focal point that's central, a good compositional technique is to actually block their vision off on either side. So any line that they follow will direct them back to the center. So picture this as like a window frame that you're looking towards to something in the center of the canvas. And then one thing I want to hint at as well is that maybe there's a ton of these other structures in the background, so we get a sense of depth too. Now on a daily basis, say I was producing these illustrations for a film, I would get probably asked to do maybe 3 to 5 variations on one of these structures, but also variations on the lighting too. So it's good to keep that in mind when you're doing like pre-production work. You want to make sure that you don't reserve all your eggs in one basket, but that you have a bunch of different ideas. It's good to show that in a portfolio so that you can think through not just one way to solve the problem, but actually multiple ways. Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
When you're creating work for your own IP, how many iterations do you make, or is it you just kind of wing it? Like
I mean, it's kind of up to you. Like when I first created this IP with a few friends of mine, we did a lot of iterations. Like I think at the beginning of the project, we did something like, I would say probably like 100 or 150 thumbnail sketches that had full color and being involved with them. And it wasn't until after we really decided on a disclosed like full direction for the project, which was the lighting, color, and you could read on everything. It wasn't until we did that I'm now able to really do something quicker for it. Nowadays, if I'm going to do something for this IP, I know it so well that I don't really need to vary on things anymore. I already know what I'm going to decide. But I think it's during that beginning phase when you're really like trying to understand what IP am I going to create, what's the form language, what's the mood, what's the palette, where is the gameplay system going to be, what's the culture. Those are things that I can very endlessly before I actually decide on something. So, that process can take a while. I tend to think that as long as you're changing things and you're making, new directions for your art, you're not just, endlessly varying and not really getting it. As long as you're evolving, I feel like the longer the better. Oftentimes, people will jump that phase too quickly and they'll do research, but they won't really find the maximum evolution that they can achieve with the project. And they settle for something that maybe is easier to do and maybe doesn't take as much time, where they could have explored a little bit more and found something that's truly unique. And that's what I'm all about. I'd rather sit down and explore for 2 weeks to find one painting that's truly unique than to just do 3 or 4 variations quickly and then get a painting that's just nervous. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
How long have you been using Fresco? Okay. How long have you been using Fresco?
So Fresco is a pretty new tool for me. I started using this, I would say, like a month ago. But I will say that I've already used it for a couple of productions that I'm working on. That's good. Yeah, it's cool. It's something that, I'm fairly used to migrating it home to Photoshop, to desktop, but I found myself in a lot of positions recently where I'm on the go. I have a really cute, I don't have it with me right here, but I have a really cute tiny iPad, like it's like maybe this big. And I love the sketching on that, whether I'm on the plane or when I'm, at a park or anything really. And you can get a lot of like really fun design stuff with it. Maybe I sometimes use it for work when I'm not at home and I'm like, oh, I have an idea for this project, I should sketch this out. It's kind of like to me like my little digital sketch pad. It's something that I can keep in the bag really easily and then bring out and just pop it in the front. So I'm going to draw some little birds here for scale. It'll be really nice. Everybody loves scale birds. And pretty soon I'm going to be switching to Photoshop. So the thing is, a lot of people ask, how do you know when you're done with a sketch? Well, the one thing that we're missing here is a strong directional light source. That's something that I was always planning on adding to this in Photoshop. You can add it in Fresco, absolutely, but simply because of the way I design right now, I rely a lot on different ways of lighting different scenes. For underwater scenes, I have a process I'm so used to now that is just very quick to do in Photoshop. So I'm going to just kind of wrap up a little bit of the design bit, which I think is the most important part of any phase of design. And then we'll be switching into Photoshop to start bringing a little bit more light. One of the things that I have in a lot of these illustrations are these huge spires in the back, past the clouds, but it's just having something that is in a very tiny detail range in the back of the painting, that is something of like a fourth or fifth piece, not something in the beginning, but something someone notices after they've taken your whole image in. I think that's something that you can add to really bring a lot of power to your image. But one of the things I want you to notice is that there's a few areas in this image that really only I've been able to accomplish with Adobe Fresco in a quick way. And that's down here in the corner where you see this wash happening of colors transitioning from light blue to blue to green, pink, and then yellow and purple. That's like pretty complex. If I was to try to get that sort of tonality in wash in Photoshop, it'd be a little bit more difficult. So that's one of the things I really like about this is that you can achieve that tonality in the whole wash of colors in a really nice way. So Renee, I think I'm ready to transition.
So we're going to just airdrop this file.
Today we're going to be going over a couple different things. Now that we have the whole layout, it may seem like it's a lot of manpower to take this to a final, but in reality, the great thing about sketching and what I always tell people is that you do the most work in the sketch. You do the most work in the sketch. So if you lay out the colors, the composition, the whole design like this, you've actually gotten most of the work done. Really, all that's left after this process is detailed work. So if you've done a piece like this already, and you have all this stuff laid out, you basically accomplished the whole blueprint. Everything else that you add after this point, that's all going to be something that builds upon the foundation. So one of the things I'm going to do really quick is just make sure that this massing is completely solid. So now we have all of our, Fresco layers on one piece. I'm going to do a color dodge layer, and I don't know if you guys have used color dodge before. It's always best to fill the layer with black before you use color dodge. Now that's something that a lot of people don't do, but it actually gives a much smoother brightness to your image when you do it like that. So what I'm going to do is select the orange in the background. We're going to move orange highlights on this. And I'm going to change the opacity of the brush a bit. And I'm just going to start painting in some nice highlights going from the left screen. And these are going to rain down the form here. And I want to make sure that as I'm painting in this highlight, that I also am aware of the shape of this upper structure. It shouldn't just be a highlight that is, randomly made on the form. I want to make sure to follow the contours that I've already set out in perspective of the sketch, so that we retain the depth that I was talking about in our original design. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard the rule of big, medium, small, shooting shapes. What a lot of people don't consider is that does not just apply to things like shapes and composition, like massing. It can apply to lighting just as much. So in that case, I'm taking that lighting rule and applying it to how I'm lighting my object. So instead of lighting, something just evenly, I'm being very specific about how I want to light it. It's just going to be, a little bit here, a little bit there. I'm going to follow like a 70-30 ratio of the light and darkness, and then like maybe a little bit of 10% for our highlights. And that will really make a few areas stand out more than others. And again, if people have questions, like, please don't be afraid. That's really happy to answer.
All friends here.
So, now we've got that color established. One of the things I think will give our image a lot more depth is using atmosphere to layer a bunch of this stuff back. So I'm going to take the light layer, and a lot of these darker lines are in the background. I'm going to use light to push them a little bit away from us. Light would normally happen on this scene like this. And that's going to eventually contribute to adding a lot more scale to it. Now, as we get closer to the top of the image, where you have the beautiful clouds behind it, that lighting is actually going to fade a little bit into the cloud and into the sky. And that's because if you guys have ever looked at a bright day, you're looking outside, you see like maybe a building, and it's, maybe the side of it is kind of blending into the sky a little bit. It's a bloom effect is what it's called, and it's used a lot in 3D. If you're rendering a scene now in Octane or Redshift, you have an option for blue. Something that will make those lights really pop into your architecture and the rest of the thing. So I'm simulating a lot of these effects. You can see as I'm adding all these different subtle effects, but it is gradually pushing a lot of these geometry back into space and contributing overall to how large this now, as we eventually will brighten the sky, also going to compare here as well.
What's usually your least favorite part of the whole process from beginning to end?
Oh, least favorite? Okay, I can totally answer. Yeah, I was like, I love it. But my least favorite is actually rendering something. So I would say nowadays I've worked myself into a position where I don't have to render too much because most of the jobs I get have to do with idea generation, and that's much more what I prefer to do. I love being the person that comes up with ideas for architecture, for creatures, for plants, all that sort of stuff, for environments. I hate the process of rendering something so much because you've already done all the hard work. You're not really challenged anymore. Everything in rendering has to deal with, how you're representing an object in light and shadow, which so many people can do. That's something that everybody can pretty much do at this point if you're in the design industry. So when it comes to render, I just get bored. I'm just like, well, I don't really have to think anymore. It's just about putting on some music, chipping away at it over time. Whereas idea generation, that's something like cloud. That's where you can come up with a concept that no one has ever seen before. And to me, that's what makes concept design an actual interesting field. We have the ability to impact media, we have the ability to impact movies, and create these worlds that no one has ever seen. I don't want to be stuck at a computer rendering something for hours. I want to be the person that has the next groundbreaking idea, the next amazing design that will really inspire people, and something that I will have a lot of fun designing.
I don't know, after seeing your rendering, it's a little hard to hear you say that.
Oh, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. But, I tend to, when I do rendering for film, I decide to stop when my idea is conveyed.
Yeah.
I don't push it all the way to the finish.
And that's dangerous, actually, over-rendering is like...
Yeah, no one likes to do something over-rendering for sure.
I have a question about the colors.
Yeah, what's up?
It feels like you're just picking colors instinctively, but can you talk a little bit about why you chose...
Totally, yes, that's a really good thing to talk about. I think I mentioned you guys a little bit earlier, and I'll elaborate more on this, that the color palette from this is more underwater color palette. It's inspired a lot by coral, algae, the sea, ocean, a lot of things like that. And, I tend to pick colors, like say if I started with blue, that was actually blue and purple were the main colors I started this with. I tend to pick colors that will play along the same emotion. So for this scene, it's supposed to be a happy scene, but it's also blue. It's like underwater, but it's a beautiful, magical place. And colors that can contribute to that when you're using blue are very bright, saturated oranges, reds, and pinks. Now, if I wanted to say play with emotion and make it more sad, and make it, like a more somber moment, then I would make completely different colors. I would probably have more blue present and much darker blue. I could then throw in a lot of reds. I could throw in some greens. And I would not have the same lighting that I have right now. Because the lighting I chose for this image, it's a very like epic sort of lighting. It's like, wow, look at this, amazing place that we've never seen before. It's, it's magic. But the lighting and the colors are really, they go hand in hand when you're designing this space. It's important to pick the right colors for the moments that also will agree with each other. Hope that's good.
What was your experience as a student? Did you go to art school and
Oh,
how
yeah,
did you
I can
develop
talk
your
about that.
portfolio?
So I first started digital art when I was around 13 or 14. I actually learned a program called Cinema 4D before I took Photoshop. I had drawn for a while, but I didn't really know Photoshop that well. I wanted to be a graphic designer initially. I think it was around when I was like 16 or 17 that I realized what concept art was, and then I was just nonstop drawing stations all the time. I went to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. I moved here from Chicago when I was 18. And that's really was like my first introduction to, this world of concept art. Since then, I have just tried to expand my skill set. I went to another school, Brainstorm School, which I highly recommend. And I've also taught there. Well, I taught at both schools, but I really do recommend Brainstorm. I think it's a really great school to go to here. I still consider myself a student in many ways. I've actually taken courses really recently. I think, as a professional in this industry, you never really stop being a student. The second you stop being a student, the second you will be left behind in the industry. Things change so often that, as little as a year ago, I was using the process or at least my client. So I always make sure to learn as much as I can. I took a course for future design recently. I try to keep up with digital trends. I try to experiment and find new ways to do it. And I think that's all very important to keep educating yourself and also educating not just on art, but on many other subjects as well. Literature, history, culture, all of those contribute to being a great designer. Because the more outside knowledge you contribute into your designs, the more unique they will be. And the more you'll be able to impact other people and create memorable. So I'm going to start incorporating some photo textures. This is something that I love doing. A lot of people, when I was a student, were telling me, don't do that, stop it. And I told them to leave. Because there's a lot of really interesting and unique things you can get by incorporating photos. I would say it's always important to have a strong foundation before you start messing around with stuff like this. But one of my favorite ways to design is, the simple way to call it is happy accidents, but that's not really it. I consider it more of an evolution of art as you're painting it. It's where you have a lot of textual information that is adding new things that are unexpected to your image, and then you see shapes and forms in it, and you decide, okay, I'm going to pull these out and make that a part of the design. So that's something I really, really love to do when it comes to creating digital art, is adding in information from unexpected sources to arrive at an unexpected outcome. So for me, that can take shape in a lot of different ways. It can be using VR, which I use a lot. It can be using photo, like I am now. It could be from using different 3D programs, generative design, procedural design. But those all contribute to making something that's unique and interesting. And just to explain what I'm doing right now, I'm using something that I use on a daily basis called Match Color. Match Color basically allows you to sample a part of your image and take all the color and value information from that. So what I just did is I brought in photos of beads and weavings. I'm using it as a ground texture, so something that is taking it completely out of context and putting it into a new context. And then I'm incorporating colors and value from my current painting into that texture. And by doing that, I'm going to start getting some very unique textures that are unexpected that I wouldn't have normally added into this painting, but will start creating a very unique world. I feel like when you're doing stuff that's very alien, that's sci-fi, that you're trying to really experiment and do something unique and original, this is a really great method to incorporate something that is like far left field, like you never really saw it coming. And especially when you're doing IP development, you want to get something that's out there. At least for me, that's wonderful. So using these photo textures is a nice way to add some subtle textures and information that you wouldn't really expect to be in a piece like this.
Super sweet. That your reference folder looks amazing too.
Oh yeah, well that's just, oh man, the reference folder in my house is like 2 or 3 terabytes large. I've been gathering, I would say I have like a way I gather reference now. Every day I'll look online for at least 30 or 40 images and then sort them into different folders. Reference is really like a very powerful tool for artists. I don't do a painting without using references. And I'm not always talking about like future photo textures, but I mean actual significant colors, objects, characters, architecture, things from the real world that you can use as inspiration. Because at the end of the day, the more you take in all these external sources and references and ideas, the more different and unique your paintings will become. If you compare someone that, say, like doesn't really leave their house, really goes to an art station and online galleries, to someone who regularly has new experiences, who looks online for new imagery, who's exposed to different ideas and is open-minded, you'll see that the person who is more open-minded, who has these new experiences, they'll have a much different take on life, on their artwork, on many things. And I strive to be more like that, to be someone who is always looking for a new experience, always looking for a different challenge. And I think that can really assist people who are designers, because that will kind of teach you something new every day. So whether that goes all the way down to gathering references, you want to gather as much as you can, and really study, not just gather, but actually understand where it's from, why it's from.
Got another question. Oh no, he just wants my help. I'm sorry, but I
No
do
problem.
have a question. Actually, talk to me a little bit about art block. You're talking about using all sorts of different references and exciting things to get yourself jazzed up, right?
Yeah.
So do you do anything else? Like do you sing or do you sculpt?
Oh, well, I do a fair amount of different things. I'm a writer. I do a lot of writing. I'm a musician. I've been playing jazz piano for a long time. I'm a traveler. I try to go to at least 5 or 6 different countries every year. These aren't like really expensive trips or anything. Just me exploring the world. That is probably what's given a lot to my art, I would say. I do take a lot of photography as well. I think that photography is a really great tool for artists because it allows you to experiment with composition and design in a very easy and affordable way. You're able to capture moments in everyday life and really try new compositions and new ideas out, but it's you're kind of thrust into the moment and you don't have a ton of control over your circumstances. And it kind of mimics a lot of the experience in the design field. You oftentimes, when you're designing for a product, maybe sometimes you have freedom. A lot of times you will not have that freedom. You have to make the most out of every second of your time. Maybe put it into a box and have to figure out how to design within that box. I feel like photography can really enrich your art by constraining you, and through that constraint and creative stress, you come out with better ideas. Anybody have any other questions about stuff? Could be about work, could be about life, your perspective. Yeah.
Oops.
Are you teaching somewhere now, actually?
No, I'm not. Yeah, I did teach at British for a while back. It was awesome. It was a lot of work, and I'm not someone. When I teach, I really put a lot into it. I would spend like 3 or 4 hours every day just getting the next class ready, doing the demos and everything. So unfortunately, right now, I don't have enough spare time in order to do another class. I think one of the things I can consider doing soon is more of a mentorship, because that's more manageable for me. I'm able to meet with students, one-on-one and assess their own individual needs as artists. Because as a class, you kind of generalize a lot of stuff, and usually in a class, everybody has a different level and different role. So I'm gonna try my best to get a mentorship running in the future. I always say in the near future. I hope it's soon, because I really do like teaching. I also think teaching helps the artist who's teaching out a lot. I found when I was teaching, I learned so much about my own process, and I recommend anybody who's professional or anybody who thinks they have something to contribute to have a thought of teaching. Teaching is a really great thing to do. It teaches you to yourself to verbalize the process that you might not be really thinking about so much, and because of teaching and really thinking about my process more and more, that's not something that I was always thinking about at home. I was kind of an internal dialogue. So many of the decisions I make now, because I've been doing this process for a while, because I've been designing for a while, it's all very subconscious. And when I was a student, I had all these sticky notes on my wall, post-it notes everywhere. My room looked like a mess, just because I was trying to figure out, what's the correct pattern to art? Like, what are all the things I need to think about? And it's just like, any other thing in life. There's so many steps and variables, and you get them down one at a time. And eventually, you know them so well that you don't really have to think about a lot of them anymore. But what happens is, after years and years of not really actively thinking about the fundamentals, the first things you had as a student, you tend to lose a little bit of focus in those areas. Teaching will bring that back, and it makes you really start to consider, all the things that you learned as a student. So one of the things I'm going to use now is Mixer Brush, which I use a lot to get a lot of color very quickly. And what you basically can do is, when you're using the Mixer Brush, is this brush with a little teardrop shape on it from all the paint that Photoshop does. And you basically just stamp, you put Option, stamp on something, and then you paste that stamp everywhere. And it becomes a really quick way to build up color and shape and form. So if you ever have a pattern you want to repeat, like this dot, it'd be really great to repeat this all through the objects. I'm going to then stamp that pretty much everywhere, and it creates a very quick and easy pattern. You can also use that just to fill in details, like when I'm filling in the side of the structures. It's a very easy way to do that.
If you were going to take this to completion, how long do you think you would give it?
If this image itself, it really varies per image. This is pretty simple compared to a lot of the images I do. I would probably spend maybe in Photoshop 5 or 6 hours, I would say, touching this up. And it'd be less about refining so much of the shape as refining the lighting and color situation. Because right now, I'm trying to really get down to the basics of the form we have. But after the form is done, I really do spend a lot of time with all the lighting adjustments to get the realistic color relationships and color values down. For instance, one of those things that I can do right now is we have lighting right here. I can use color dodge to get some bounce light from this area right into the side of the object. I try to picture lighting in a similar way that I do a render engine. For instance, I think you guys can use Octane or Redshift. They have ray tracing mode, which is where a light, say the sunlight in this instance, is bouncing a bunch of pixels, or not pixels, sorry, a bunch of bouncing rays around your scene. And every object you interact with, it bounces to a different object. So I try to think like that. So if I have sun here, I'm tracing the ray and seeing, okay, if it hits here, where is that ray going to bounce, and how much of an impact that's going to have? It's going to brighten up that area, it's going to be saturated. Those are all things I try to think about, and then I can use that to really make people start getting more realistic. Because in the end of the day, if I'm doing something for animation, I do a lot of work in live action also animation. I want to make sure that the color relationships, even if something is very loose, I want to make sure the color relationships are real and interesting as well.
I think that's a really good pro tip for most illustrators, that if you can kind of understand how renders are put together, then you can really make your art better. You know, like occlusion, lighting passes, and still light counts. Those are all things that the computer is fake because of real life.
Absolutely.
And as an illustrator, you have to too.
So now, I said this in a demo I did earlier, but if you were to spend 10 minutes on anything in the piece, if that's all you were going to have left, you know, to finish the sketch, that 10 minutes is best spent on the silhouette of your shape. And there's a reasoning behind that. Is that, you know, there's this famous rule here in art school, you know, you have like 3 seconds before someone stops looking at your image, so you better sell it in 3 seconds. The silhouette most of those 3 seconds. It's how fast someone can understand what's happening in the image. The silhouette of your base shape, that's really the most important thing. So, you know, if you spend that time on the interior detail of your silhouette, it's actually going to not be the best use of the time because its interior detail is like secondary or tertiary, whereas the silhouette is really like the primary thing that people are looking at with the exterior. So in that silhouette, there's a lot of things I look for and I try to change. I play with rhythm a lot, which is, I'll just do like a quick demo for that. In this little branch right here, I have a lot of lines that are flowing. So for every line that I place on the bottom, there's a corresponding line on the top that gets pushed up. So there's a curve here that's responding to a curve down here. And that's something that I can see without through this entire image, like through all these different lines. And that also has to do with tension and release, where, you know, just if you're doing something with figure drawing, you want to think about designing architecture in a similar way, because all those curves, all those forms are, you know, a response to other shapes you have in your design. They all kind of coexist and work together to create something that's interesting. So at the end of the day, if you create a curve somewhere, you should think about how it impacts the rest of the piece and how it's going to, you know, change how the viewer absorbs your image. So I'm just, you know, nailing out the edges of the silhouette to make sure that all those curves are really working together to create an interesting shape. So there's a lot of these shapes that are a little bit squiggly here and there. We want to make sure they're refined and actually, you know, really well thought out. One of the things that I think is important to learn a lot if you're trying to develop a sense of color palette is outdoor painting, like plein air painting. I think that's one of the best ways to develop it. That's one of the things that I learned first, because I came from the 3D background before I learned painting. And it really did take me a long time to learn how to paint. The thing that definitely helped me the most was plein air painting. So I started with digital, and now I do a lot of traditional wash painting for my plein airs.
Question?
Yeah, how do you keep your paint wet?
Is it serious? I mean, I have I have a spray bottle. It's like a little spritzer, sort of like the effect that a perfume or cologne canister would have, where you can get it like $5 or less. And that will always, you know, you spray the paint here and there, and then that always makes it wet. So all these shapes of backgrounds, these are all responses to our main shape. So we don't want any of the shapes in the back to be competing with our main design. So while I'm adding all the negative spaces, you know, it's okay to add these negative spaces, but I just want to make sure, you know, the overall image that they're not messing. One of the things I like to do, I'm not sure if this will work, is I'd like to take a piece of the image that's already a focal point or a lighting, and then stretching it acts as another quick picture. So say if you want like a little light happening on this. This is like a little piece that's been taken from the top of our image. I'm going to stretch it, form that happening on there, and use it as a way to guide the eye. By stretching it again, I'm getting something that's very dynamic instead of just painting it with a stroke. If you can take something and then stretch it, and then use Photoshop's transform tools to really push and pull the dimensions, you can get a lot of really good options for making something dynamic that maybe you wouldn't have thought of if you were just painting it normally. So after we have that, we can start brushing it into just the places that I want it. I don't want it everywhere, but in a few places just to guide the eye a little bit. So one of the things I'm adding in the corner here that is actually very important to accomplish is right now, this line will, if someone follows it, it will move out of the canvas. What I'm doing is adding another line to make sure that that attention is driven back into the composition. And that's something that I do with tons of my work in film, is that if you want to make sure to have someone's eye cycle around the composition. So if I were to draw a line of interest, your eye will be coming in this direction and following kind of a circular pattern until you reach the center of the image. And that's because of all these different shapes pushing and pulling you in a certain image. And that's like a really useful way to use this because it gives you a lot of power on where to point someone's eye. There's a lot of designers that will point someone's direction out of their canvas, and then that's a way to get someone who's interested quickly. So to work around it, you want to use as many composition techniques as possible.
If you've got any questions for Finnian, raise your hand. We've got about 10 minutes left. It's really beautiful, and it's stunning that you made it so quickly. I think I speak for everybody, right? You're also good.
So do you like flip the image at all, like check composition?
You know, I do that a lot. I'm kind of scared to do that right now. Because, you know, like if I was doing this professionally, I totally do that. I have a hotkey set on my desktop, but I'm scared if I do it in a demo, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to. But let's do it. Let's see. You know, you're daring me to do it, I'm going to do it. Oh! You know, so I just did, there are definitely things I've noticed. So that's a really good point, actually. And I should have brought that up, is that there's things that I noticed that work in this direction that do not work in the other direction. A lot of them have to do with different shapes for me. Now, a lot of you guys, you know, I talked about the big and small before. Now that will actually change depending on what orientation you're looking at the canvas. So if I flip this, there's a bunch of things that I'll point out to you guys that I did. Not necessarily wrong, but there's things that I'm going to change if I want to continue this. The first is that I have two spikes right next to each other that are just about equal. If we're talking about like a radial object, which is how, you know, a plant like this would grow, you'd ideally want one right here and another one right there, but not two next to each other. That's like the biggest issue I see with this right now. The other thing is that it feels a little bit lopsided. What I might just do is use a warp tool to change this around a little bit. But that's a really good point. It's very beneficial to, move around your canvas as much as possible. Because you're going to notice things that are off that you wouldn't have noticed before.
Such a good tip. One more question.
Is Yoshitaka Amano one of your influences by any chance?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Is Yoshitaka Amano one of your influences?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar. Sorry.
The reason I ask that is when I look at this object, it's just a color palette reminds me of his work.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
the vibrant purples, blues,
Yeah.
got a bunch of cool colors in here.
I'll look them up after.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What's his name again? Yoshi.
Yoshitaka Amano.
Okay, thank you.
You'll know him. He does most of the character design work for Final Fantasy.
Oh, man,
So
I love the Final Fantasy.
the really beautiful painterly watercolor
Yeah.
wispy ones.
Oh,
Those
that's
just-
Yeah, I'll definitely check them out. That's great. Oh, right over here. Oh,
Just mechanically, the process that you're going through right now, you're going between paint dropper and paintbrush.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And you're using a hard round brush for everything?
there will come a time when I'm finalizing this that I will get into the painterly mode where I'll cycle between a lot of brushes and then I'll sample areas that I want to refine and make more simple. I'll basically simplify the strokes. Like how a lot of artists have really inspired me in the past to do this painting is at least how I see it, is that I'll do the design of everything first, and then towards the end I'll worry a bit more about the aesthetics. Simplification is something that's very important to me. It's something that I try to achieve in a lot of work when I have the time. But it's not something I like to worry about while I'm designing, because then it becomes kind of a dual task where you're thinking about so many things at once. So I like to complete the design, which to me is a little bit more important than simplification. And then the simplification I handle at a later time after I've already finished up the round brush. But yes, I think that every painting can be totally accomplished with just a round brush, like soft and round. I have a friend that did a course with Fresco, and his assignment for every single painting, for 6 months, was to just use the round brush. He did amazing paintings. So, not saying that that's proof or something, but it's very doable. It's very rare for me to design anything other than a round brush because you're just conveying information. The amount of juice you add to the stroke economically, the important thing is that the creation you're making is something that's new and interesting and well thought out.
How often do you break the common rules of design? Instead of doing 50-50, and how successful is it when you do it?
Sorry,
instead of doing big, medium, small, you make 50-50 proportion, or
yeah, so
against the grain.
I get what you mean. I do break rules a lot when it comes to personal work. I didn't so much with this. I guess the one thing I did break with this is that oftentimes I was taught in school to do a composition where you create a focal point on a rule of thirds. And what I did today is I did a very almost square composition, just right in the center, and a bunch of shit. I do break it. I, however, hate using 50-50 just as a personal preference. And even before I learned composition, I was always very detached about it.
Can you tell some people what 50-50 is?
Yeah, sorry. So 50-50 is if I create a massing of an object or a composition that is divided in the center. So if I had maybe started this image out where this is my ground plane, and then my object is here, but the object can also be 50-50. So say this top section, and then I have a small middle section, and I have another bottom section that's exactly the same size. That's another example of 50-50. Another example of 50-50 is if I lit that object, both sides of it, in the half. So that's another example of how you use 50-50. Obviously, there's much more pleasingly aesthetic ways to do that, but if you break it down, that's kind of how you think about the shape proportions.
Sorry for another question.
Oh, dude, you guys can ask as many as you want. I'm happy to answer questions.
I see the number of layers growing, and I'm curious, what is your typical process / decision making towards when to create a new layer?
Okay, good point. You know, it's become so natural now, I almost don't think about it anymore, but usually it tends to be if I'm working on a different section of the canvas. That's usually when I do it, like I was about to start a new layer right at the end of that. So if I had started, you know, working like up here, I probably would do it on a different layer, because if I started working with the pinks and oranges, I want to mess up it. So if I'm going to go back through this, oh god, never mind. Because this layer is like all over the place. You know, if I'm doing client work, I'm always working on that. I'll have groups, I'll have, you know, DDEF passes, I'll have all this stuff. When it comes to personal work, I tend to get a little bit carried away, as I'm realizing right now. But I do tend to keep as many as possible. I'm definitely not shy about creating them. I usually will end up like a personal piece with like 4 or 5 different layers. And that's just because I like to be very safe when I'm creating images. Not safe in terms of like the colors or anything. I'm just safe in terms of like, I don't want to merge things because I always want people to edit something, which is very important for me and has been feedback when I haven't been safe about that.
We got one more question, and we're actually at time, so. Oh, it's not for him. Is there a smushy thing? You know, I'll just take this since I'm already on the microphone as well. If you're on the live brushes and you open up one of the oils, you can actually take the color all the way down to make it a transparent brush. And then that means it's basically smushable because it's oil, but it's just in case whatever pixels are there. So there you go there, and then that's actually your flow. This guy's your color. No, that's your flow. So this is your color, and your opacity is there, so all the way down.
Okay, well, guys, thank you so much for coming. It's great to be able to